This is your host, Danny, and this is Word Power from English Plus Podcast. Welcome to a new week from English Plus Podcast. This week, I'm going to come back to the schedule I promised you at the beginning of Season 3. I had a few hiccups at the beginning of Season 3, but now everything should be back on track. But what are we going to learn today? Word Power. Today, we're going to learn about something a little bit scientific. We're going to talk about autopsy. Let me tell you about the words we're going to learn in context in this episode. We're going to learn desecrate, abhorrent, repugnant, dissect, differentiate, symptom, mutate, sophisticated, comprehensive, and lethal. We're going to learn these 10 words in context, but before we do that, let me start by giving a big thanks from the bottom of my heart to Catalin Olarescu. Catalin is the latest patron. Welcome to the family and thank you very much for supporting me and the learning community. You have no idea what this means to me and to the whole learning community. You're helping us survive, grow, and thrive, and you're giving us this sense of possibility that we can become an independent learning community one day. And that is a big call for all other people who are listening to me right now. You can become a patron just like Catalin and help English Plus and our whole learning community grow. We can grow together. So if you would like to become a patron, the link is in the description. Go to my Patreon page, become a patron. With every patron, we're getting closer to our first milestone, which is 50 patrons. Today, we have 14 patrons, which is a great number so far. But as I told you earlier, we need 50 patrons by the end of this year to make sure that nothing will stop us. And then we will aim higher to get to a place where we can become completely independent. But now coming back to our word power, we're going to learn a lot of things today, so we'd better get started. But let me remind you that there is a link in the description that will take you to a custom post I created on my website, EnglishPlusPodcast.com. There, you will have a chance to practice the words you learned. For the practice, I have a lot of things for you. There's the text we're learning from, there's a quick check after the text to make sure you understand the words, and then we have interactive activities, flashcards, spelling, even game-like activities on the website, and there's a PDF downloadable worksheet with crossword puzzles, word searches, you name it. Of course, you're not supposed to do all of them today or at the same time. I created all these exercises because I know that vocabulary cannot be learned all at once or cannot be learned all in one day. When you learn these 10 new words, you can go today and do a couple of exercises, come back in a couple of days, do more exercises, and then come back after a week or two or even a month and then review what you have learned. Because the point of learning new words is to be able to use these words in your language. And to do that, practice is the best way. You need to practice the words. Well, we're doing our best in the podcast to learn these new words in context, not just out of context so that you can forget them easily. No, you're not going to forget them easily because you're learning them in context. Sometimes you will remember the meaning of the word from what we talked about, from the story we talked about. But that is not enough. Let me tell you that if you want to add these words to your active vocabulary bank, practice is necessary, and I got you covered. There's all the practice you need in the world on the website. The link is in the description. Take the link and take your English with it to the next level. And now, without further ado, let's start with our today's topic, autopsy. Regardless of one's beliefs about the spiritual life of the soul, the treatment of our earthly remains is a matter of considerable importance. In nearly all cultures, to desecrate a dead body, even the body of an enemy, is abhorrent. Extreme measures are taken to recover the victims of mining disasters, plane crashes, and other accidents in order that their bodies may be properly buried. The cremated remains of loved ones are usually handled with great reverence. They have been lovingly scattered over the sea, housed in shrines, and even shot into space. It is little surprise then that the idea of cutting apart and studying a dead body is charged with deep emotions. The thought of cutting into the human body was deeply repugnant to the early Chinese and Muslims. In the Middle Ages, many Western civilizations prohibited such human dissection. Even today, authorizing an autopsy on the body of a loved one can be a heart-wrenching decision. It was not until the Renaissance that the dissection and study of corpses became an acceptable scientific practice. Only then was it possible to differentiate between the normal and abnormal appearances of human organs, and to begin to link certain symptoms of a disease with observable abnormalities. Until the 19th century, autopsies were limited to observations that could be made with the naked eye. The microscope made it possible to study the changes in the cells and link the way they mutate with disease and death. Modern, scientifically sophisticated autopsies require comprehensive chemical analysis. In addition to their scientific applications, modern autopsies have important legal significance. An autopsy can often determine whether death was the result of foul play or natural causes. The pathologist in such cases must be thorough and objective, listing all lethal and non-lethal facts uncovered during the examination of the body. Determining the cause of death requires a broad-based examination of the body, the scene of the death, and all related circumstances. So that was our topic for today. It was about autopsy, the history of it, why it was not a very likable idea, and it is not today. I'm not going to say that it is a good idea today and everybody's okay with it, especially when this happens to a person you might know. But we know today that it is a necessary process to uncover cause of death and other things that are necessary. We understand today that it is necessary, but it is still repugnant. It is still abhorrent. We don't like it. Nobody is going to like that. The human body is still in many cultures a sacred thing, regardless of which culture or religion we belong to. But that is about our topic. Now we get to the point we've all been waiting for, the 10 new words we're going to learn in context of our story today about autopsy. Let me tell you about the words again. We're going to learn about desecrate, abhorrent, repugnant, dissection, differentiate, symptoms, sophisticated, comprehensive, and lethal. So, without further ado, let's start learning the new words for today. So let's start with our very first word, desecrate. Let's take a look at how we use that in context. We said in nearly all cultures, to desecrate a dead body, even the body of an enemy, is abhorrent. Well, so what is the meaning of desecrate? Well, desecrate is different from autopsy. Don't mix the two together, because desecrate is a mean, bad thing. If someone desecrates something which is considered to be holy or very special, they deliberately damage or insult it. Well, obviously, autopsy is a scientific thing, so it is not meant to damage or insult anything. But the word desecrate means that. So when an autopsy is performed, it's not a desecration of the body. But here we're just talking about the idea that in nearly all cultures, to desecrate a dead body, even the body of an enemy, is abhorrent. So that is our word desecrate. D-E-S-E-C-R-A-T-E. Desecrate. Now for our next word, which we just got from the same sentence. We said in nearly all cultures, to desecrate a body, even the body of an enemy, is abhorrent. A-B-H-O-R-R-E-N-T. What does that mean? If something is abhorrent to you, you hate it very much or consider it completely unacceptable. It is something hateful. It is offensive, disgusting. That is abhorrent. So you can say it's simply disgusting. Yeah, it is. It's a lot more than that. When you want to use something that is stronger than disgusting, you can use abhorrent. It's a very strong word. And the next word is very close. Repugnant. R-E-P-U-G-N-A-N-T. Repugnant. Let's take a look at how we use that in context. We said the thought of cutting into the human body was deeply repugnant to the early Chinese and Muslims. Well, here we're not talking about desecrating the body. We're just talking about autopsy itself, which involves cutting the body of humans. So here, even this was deemed repugnant, was deeply repugnant to the early Chinese and Muslims. So repugnant, as we said, is very close to abhorrent, but it leans more towards the disgusting thing. So if you think that something is horrible and disgusting, you can say that it is repugnant. you can say that repugnant, abhorrent are very strong words. Use them to express very strong feelings about something, of course, in this meaning. So here we have those two words that are very close to each other. We can even call them synonyms to each other, abhorrent and repugnant. Now, what's next? The next word is dissect. D-I-S-S-E-C-T. Let's take a look at how we use that in context. We said in the Middle Ages, many Western civilizations prohibited such human dissection. Well, obviously dissection is the noun, but it comes from the word dissect. What does that mean? Maybe you remember that from science classes when you dissected a frog or some insect. That is the meaning of dissection. If someone dissects the body of a dead person or animal, they carefully cut it up in order to examine it scientifically. So this is not to desecrate. You need to pay attention here and not confuse the word desecrate with dissect. Desecrate is a very bad thing, and it is not acceptable to desecrate a body in any culture, in any religion, in any country around the world. But to dissect a body, it is acceptable when there is cause, of course. You just don't go dissect people for fun. No, it is done to examine the body scientifically. That is the meaning of dissect. So why do they do that? Why do they dissect a person's body or an animal's body? Well, they do that to differentiate between the normal and abnormal appearances of human organs and to begin to link certain symptoms of a disease with observable abnormalities. So here they dissect the body to see the appearance of the organs, if they're normal, abnormal, and here our next word to differentiate between the normal and abnormal appearances of human organs. So what does it mean to differentiate? D-I-F-F-E-R-E-N-T-I-A-T-E. Differentiate. If you differentiate between things, or if you differentiate one thing from another, you recognize or show the difference between them. It's very easy because it comes from difference, but that is the verb. You differentiate between two things. That means you can tell the difference between these two things. You can distinguish, you can separate them, contrast them, something like that. All right, so that is our word differentiate. And within the same example, we also used our next word, which is symptom, S-Y-M-P-T-O-N. We said only then was it possible to differentiate between the normal and abnormal appearances of human organs and to begin to link certain symptoms of a disease with observable abnormalities. So what is a symptom? Symptom, obviously, we're talking about diseases. So a symptom of an illness is something wrong with your body or mind that is a sign of the illness. It is not the illness itself, it is the sign that tells you that you might have this illness or that. Of course, symptoms can be mild and can be serious. We can have some dangerous symptoms and we can have some mild symptoms, like the symptoms of the common cold, for example. But when we're talking about some serious symptoms, we can talk about the symptoms of a heart attack or something. So the symptom itself, remember, it's not the illness. The symptom is just the sign that tells you this illness might exist. So you need to go to the doctor or to the hospital to check if you're all right. All right, so we talked about desecrate, abhorrent, repugnant, dissect, differentiate, and symptom. We still have 4 words to go. That's coming next. Don't go away, stay tuned. We still have mutate, sophisticated, comprehensive, and lethal. So our next word is mutate, M-U-T-A-T-E. Let's take a look at how we use that in context. We said the microscope made it possible to study the changes in the cells and link the way they mutate with disease and death. So what does that mean, to mutate? If an animal or plant mutates or something mutates it, it develops different characteristics as the result of this change in its genes. So that is simply like to alter, to modify, to change, to vary. Now, of course, when we talk about mutations, you might remember the word mutants from the X-Men series, for example, and that means they have some changes in their DNA, so they have some superpowers. But it doesn't have to be that dramatic. Mutations can happen to our cells, can happen to animal cells or plant cells, and can change some of the things. It doesn't have to be X-Men, of course, but it can lead to diseases or it can lead to changes in appearance. So that is our word mutate. And now for the next word, sophisticated, S-O-P-H-I-S-T-I-C-A-T-E-D. sophisticated. Let's see how we use that in context. We said modern, scientifically sophisticated autopsies require comprehensive chemical analysis. So here, when we talk about a sophisticated machine, device, or method, like when we said here scientifically sophisticated autopsies, what do we mean by that? We mean something that is more advanced or complex than others. So we're talking about something that is complicated, something that is complex, that is sophisticated. It's different when we say sophisticated about people. When we say a sophisticated person, that means a person who is well educated, who knows a lot about the world, cultured, etc. That is sophisticated. But when we talk about a sophisticated machine, device, or a method, that means it is complex or complicated. And within the same example, we use the word comprehensive. comprehensive. What does that mean? We said modern scientifically sophisticated autopsies require comprehensive chemical analysis. What does that mean? Something that is comprehensive includes everything that is needed or relevant. When you talk about a comprehensive solution, that means a solution that covers all things that are needed or relevant. It's not partial. When you say a partial thing, that means it covers only a part of whatever the problem is. But when you talk about something that is comprehensive, now here, of course, we're talking about autopsies and chemical analysis. We're talking about a comprehensive chemical analysis, a chemical analysis that covers everything. A comprehensive chemical analysis. So that is our word, and that leaves us with the very last word for today's episode, and that is lethal. 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 Now let's see how we use that in context. We said the pathologist in such cases must be thorough and objective, listing all lethal and non-lethal facts uncovered during the examination of the body. Now here, of course, we're talking about autopsies, especially maybe autopsies that are required by law to determine the cause of death. The cause of death, whether it was natural or caused by some foul play, like a crime or something. And autopsies can tell you that because it can list all the lethal and non-lethal facts uncovered during the examination of the body. So what is lethal? If you describe something as lethal, you mean that it is capable of causing a lot of damage, even death. That is the meaning of lethal. It is deadly. When we talk about a weapon and we say a lethal weapon, that means a deadly weapon. It can cause death. So that is our word lethal, deadly, terminal, fatal, deathly. That is lethal. And let me remind you again, we had 10 words today. We learned 10 new words today. I hope they're all new, or at least if they're not new, you have a better understanding of the words and you have a better understanding how to use these words in your own writing and speaking. We learned desecrate, abhorrent, repugnant, dissect, differentiate, symptom, mutate, sophisticated, comprehensive, and lethal. These are the 10 words. Don't forget, if you really want to incorporate these new words in your own writing and speaking, that means making them part of your active vocabulary bank, don't forget that there is only one way to do that. The first part of it is listening to the podcast, of course, because that will help a lot. We're learning the words in context. That's great. But the second part, which is the more important part, and that is up to you, is to practice these words. And I have everything you need in this custom post I created. There are a lot of activities. You can do them on the go wherever you are. These are very useful for you to remember the words and, more importantly, to add these words to your active vocabulary bank. One more time, a big thanks from the bottom of my heart to Catalin Olarescu, our latest patron. We have 14 patrons. We're very close. We're getting a lot closer to our target. Before the end of the year, if we get to this target, we will all believe that this thing is going to continue forever. It's not going to stop. So follow the lead of Catalin and support me and the learning community. There's a link in the description that will take you to my Patreon page. Go there, support us, and help our learning community survive. Now, with that being said, this is your host, Danny. I would like to thank you very much for listening to another episode from English Plus Podcast. I will see you next time.